Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. We've got some leftist hysteria to cover today. It's always the same thing, huh? The same behavior, the same look, the same kind of archetype, the same kind of character, the same person. Every single time with these leftoids, they fall directly in line to that stereotype. I'm always making this point that it's impossible to have a conversation with some of these people, especially the Blue Anon folk who have just bought into every single MSNBC gaslighting, slanderous narrative. It's impossible to reason with these people. Frankly, they've been frickin' MK Ultra'd. How do you have a conversation with somebody who is so aggressive, somebody who hates you, somebody who, if they had the power, would put you in a re-education camp in a gulag, they would ostracize and exile you from society. How is it possible to meet in the middle, find middle ground, or have a conversation when this is the type of behavior, or discussion dynamic between us and them? And look, this is a one-sided issue. The right is partisan in its own way. We do the whole own the libs thing. But when it comes to having a conversation, we're open to have a conversation about ideas. These leftoids, they just break down, default to all the ridiculous talking points, try to paint you as public enemy number one, as this horrible, irredeemable bigot. And here's a viral video to show you guys exactly what I mean. It's yet again just building on the argument that I've been making for years. It's impossible to reason with people like this. Let me show you guys what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's first start off with the clip, maybe add a little bit of basic context here. It seems as though there's an individual just minding his own business. He has some sort of sign up. We never get to see what the sign actually read, but I, doubt it's all that controversial. It seems as though it's just a Republican activist, probably posted up, near the corner of a voting center, offering to get people registered as Republicans to vote. Well, you have random Republican individual participating in the civic process, and then you have raging leftoid.
When you fucking people tried to overthrow the election, you might as well have been walking up to my head on the way to the polling station, putting a gun in my head, trying to tell me not to vote. You expect me to not take that personally? You try to overthrow elections with violence, and then you're out here among decent people.
Thanks for
coming out. What do you have to say that, huh? What are your policy prescriptions?
Have a nice day. You've already
fucking rapist rights.
Yeah.
Involving yourself in people's families and their bedrooms.
It's pretty wild.
You animal. You try to steal my vote next year, I'm gonna remember you personally.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm taking a fucking picture of you. Is that all right?
Yeah, you
Permission?
can. Yeah. It's a one-party consent state.
Shitbird? Yeah, one-party state. You want a one-party country is what you want.
Hey, sir, how are you? Headed in to vote?
Yeah.
Could I get your Republican sample ballot? Sure, thank you.
Try not to be buddy-buddy with these people because they put on the face of a good neighbor, but they support lynch mobs or the fucking KKK, or they're fucking Bible-beating bigots and freaks. And they're not good neighbors.
It's the same thing every time. The look, it's the same person. It's always the flabby arm beta male taking that tough guy stance, standing up for the peoples who needs him, taking on the MAGA extremists. It is a freaking LARP. This guy is living in an alternate reality. You're trying to steal my vote, bro. You're trying to overturn the government, bro. You're the worst kind of person. You're a bigot. Blah, 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 blah. Just an unhinged lunatic. And then the Republican activist just sitting there going, okay, yeah, you can take a picture with me. I'm open to have a conversation. What exactly is the issue here? Oh, you're a bigot. You're a bigot. You're a bigot. What kind of conversation is that? It makes absolutely no sense. You have one individual who seemed totally open to having, basic cordial discord, and then you had the Blue Anon Twitter guy, the hashtag resistance guy who's probably always retweeting random nonsense on his Twitter and warning the world of the dangers of these extreme Republican anti-democracy fascists. This is your brain on MSNBC. This is your brain brain on Rachel Maddow, going to a random guy and accusing him of attempting to overthrow democracy with violence. Yeah, that never happened. That only ever happened in the fake news propaganda bubble that is MSNBC and CNN. There was no attempt to overthrow the government through violence. That never happened. Literally, there was a protest. People were very angry. People felt as though something was taken from them. They raised their voice. They attempted to challenge through all legal processes. And yes, things did get rowdy. Individuals representing different interest groups did in fact commit crimes, isolated crimes. But for the most part, everyone present on the day of January 6th, because that's obviously what he's referencing, were overwhelmingly peaceful, patriotic Americans who had an issue and wanted to make their voices heard. They were met with tear gas, riot shields, being hit with batons. There was a whole underlying conspiracy theory to create some sort of psyop, some sort of false flag event that Nancy Pelosi was obviously involved in. Anybody who objectively analyzed the events of January 6th, and not only the events themselves, but everything that happened prior and post, knows that this is the case. But even if that wasn't the case, and even if there was a group that was attempting to overthrow the US government, what does this guy have to do with it? You have a random Republican activist, but somehow he is part of the insurrection. It's completely insane. And it's really a result of media narrative building. There are people like this man who are chronically online, chronically consuming Rachel Maddow style noise. They live in these ridiculous echo chambers where they're being force-fed these ridiculous narratives. They're essentially being told, hey, your neighbor John? Yeah, he's your mortal enemy. He's coming after you and your kids and American democracy as we know it. And people buy into this stuff. Their brains are being bombarded with this stuff. They're not asking questions because, well, let's just be honest, the average lemming out there doesn't have the capability to ask questions, so they simply go, oh, that sounds horrible. Let me do something about it. And then they take to the streets and randomly accost, innocent people just like trying to participate in the civic process. Then this is what you get, and this is what's been happening ever since Trump walked down that escalator. This is what's happening to families. This is what's happening to relationships. And obviously the media is at fault here. And honestly, I'm pointing out the problem, but I don't know how to find a solution. I don't know how we fix this dynamic. That's really what it is. It's a dynamic. I don't know where we go from here, How do we convince these people that we're not their enemies and that actually we have a lot in common because the same freaking elitist puppet masters, both sides, uniparty puppet masters, well, those are the guys pretty much working behind the scenes to ruin our lives, take away our freedoms, take away our rights. How do we convince these people that we're not the enemy, but rather there should be some sort of coalition, unity, ability to converse in basic terms rather than getting distracted by all of this partisan, your neighbor's the enemy nonsense propaganda that's being shoved down people's throats? Like, how do we fix that? How do we fix this guy? It's probably one of the most important questions. How do we fix this man? How do we, do a little slap back and forth? Wake up, man. Get out of it. We're at a point where the Blue Anon people ascribe evil, malice, racism, hatred to anything and anyone associated with MAGA. Where do we go from there? How do we survive as a society if that's the current dynamic at play? That 50% of the country, well, they're irredeemable deplorables. Hillary Clinton's one of the individuals who started that whole freaking, slanderous campaign. How do we fix that? How do we find a remedy? How do we move forward with these kinds of unhinged lunatics? I don't know. I tend to be an optimist, and I think it's going to slowly work itself out. And I think, in a certain way it already is. A lot of people are realizing that actually Trump supporters are lovely people with families and businesses and people to care for. All they want is what's best for them, their family, and their country. Hopefully that idea in the end, which is the truth, the truth in the end is going to prevail, and eventually these people are going to become the extreme minority. To be honest, they kind of already are. But I don't know. I'm kind of going in circles just because the whole thing for me is a little bit confusing. Where do we go from here? How do we get here? How do we fix this? Because obviously something is deeply wrong. There is a sickness. This is a sickness. That is not a man who is okay. That is a man who is projecting some sort of negativity, who is angry, who wants to blame somebody, who wants conflict, or somebody who's kind of filling like a masculine void where he feels like he should be doing something and standing up for something. He needs to be, taking it to some sort of evil. And so, this is the choice that he makes to go after, random Republican Andy at the corner of the street. But anyways, I just wanted to highlight just how ridiculous it is, how crazy it is, and how it truly truly is one-sided. You don't see this happening with Republicans targeting Democrats. Is there ridicule sometimes? Like, hey, you're a communist, you're dumb, your ideas are dumb, go get a job? Yeah, absolutely. But that's all justified. This kind of thing, this whole like, you're public enemy number one, you're a terrorist, you're an enemy of democracy, you're trying to steal my vote and overthrow the government. I mean, it is next level crazy. It is a one-sided issue. It is a Rachel Maddow MSNBC issue. And we just gotta snap out of it. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Just more exposure. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.